Things haven't gone exactly as planned in Jimbo Fisher's fifth year at Texas A&M. After calling his shot against Bama last year, then firing one across the bow, signing the #1 recruiting class. Now, the Aggies' loss at home against App State a couple weeks ago increased the chirping tenfold. So the question must be asked, is this a must-win for Jimbo in Arlington against the Razorbacks? Now, we all know he isn't getting fired if they lose this game. But if they do fall, the Aggies are looking at a possible 0-3 start in the league with trips to Starkville and Tuscaloosa on the horizon. And that will only increase the pressure cooker that Jimbo's already in. Now, the Aggie faithful can take some solace in a nice win against a highly ranked Miami team at home last week. But they still know the problems aren't solved and there are unanswered questions about this year's team. A&M has checked every box except the one that matters the most: rings. All of the offseason hype and big-time commitments mean nothing if the Aggies don't compete for not only an SEC West title, but national titles as well. They just watched Georgia end a title drought of 40 years, and they've been waiting double that time since 1939. Now, Jimbo has a chance to avoid another iceberg this Saturday. But if he doesn't, the people that matter might get one step closer to the lifeboats.
Jimbo Fisher.
Jimbo Fisher. And look, must win is a term that I think you can loosely apply. But it hasn't been all rainbows and friendship in College Station, because it seems like A&M continues to lose games that at this point in Jimbo's tenure in Aggie land that they shouldn't lose. And you got to give credit to App State. But the lack of explosive plays at A&M continues to be a problem. And you have to have those, especially in big games. You're not just going to be able to line up and run inside zone and split zone and power and counter and just throw intermediate and quick game at people the whole season. You have to have at least the threat of going vertical. A&M's problems offensively, a lot of them stem from the quarterback. Now, look, Kellen Mond got drafted. He did some things at A&M. They went, a really good record on the COVID year and stuff like that. But it seems to me they haven't been able to break through because offensively, when they play anybody with a pulse on defense, everything seems hard to move the ball down the field. Now, with Max Johnson going up against this Arkansas secondary, we're going to get into that in Keys to Victory, you would think there would be some explosive plays. But it's also somewhat boring to watch. Like, if you're an Aggie fan and you're watching the game, you want to see A-Chain, hit the home run, but you also want to see a vertical ball that's caught. You want to see somebody that catches a post and goes scores, or somebody that catches the dig, shakes the safety, or breaks a tackle and goes score. Breaks a 65, 70-yard run or something because they're so worried about getting beat deep. And to get over the hump in the SEC West, to be able, and I know they beat Alabama last year. What was one of the biggest reasons they beat Alabama last year? They hit some
Zach Calzada. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's exactly. Explosive plays down the field. That was one of the few games they hit explosive plays down the field. So when I look at A&M and the structure, we know his contract, again, he's not getting fired. But if he loses this one, all right, and then you go and lose at Mississippi State and Alabama, which I said I think there's a good chance they could start out 0-3 this season, all right, and that Max Johnson needed to be the quarterback, both of which, one has already happened, the other can possibly happen. Imagine an 0-3 SEC start, Cone.
Which you kind of called. Well, yeah, you had them 1-2 or something, but you called this A&M season being down.
Yeah, yes, and I think 2023 is the year, and nobody wants to hear that. Well, my answer is, well, you've waited since 1939.
That's my
year.
Point too.
But Cone, the pressure, at what point, if it were to get to that 0-3 point, at what point do you start hearing the chirping being legitimate from people that matter? Not the fans, not media members, but people that actually matter, saying, you know what, maybe there is actual doubt about whether Jimbo can do this, and then that will just do nothing but turn 2023 into not make or break, but you better do something.
Yeah, I mean, they can chirp all they want. I don't think it's going to amount to anything because Texas A&M, and you're talking about the people who matter, those are the people with the checkbooks. They've gone all in on Jimbo Fisher, and I still think that it was the right move. This guy was the heir apparent to Bobby Bowden at Florida State and won a national championship there. It made sense to go after a guy like that when he was having problems with the Florida State administration. It was a good hire. I know that his buyout right now is $85 million. That's significant. $85 million.
But they got
even
it
for Texas oil money. That's significant. The loss to Appalachian State's a bad loss. I'll tell you what, what's just as bad to me is not getting the quarterback position right. Now, I don't know, like I said, I have a hard time believing that Jimbo Fisher, knowing as much as he does about the quarterback position, sat there and evaluated both those guys through a spring and through a fall and got the wrong guy. Okay, like I don't know what Haynes King was doing in practice. Maybe he was incredible in practice and just didn't show up into the games. But either way, while those things are not ideal, I'll say, I think that Texas A&M is tied to Jimbo Fisher, and the thing that will save him is the #1 recruiting class. That's the thing. Let me read you a couple of stats I found here real quick. Through the first 50 games as a head coach at Texas A&M, wins, Kevin Sumlin 36, Jimbo Fisher 35. Wins against ranked teams, Kevin Sumlin 9, Jimbo Fisher 7. Ranked road wins, Kevin Sumlin 5, Jimbo Fisher 0. Losses to group of 5 schools, Jimbo Fisher 1, Kevin Sumlin 0. But it's that #1 recruiting class for next year. And just like you've been saying, 2023 is the year, right? We're going to stack recruiting classes on top of each other. I think while you can point to this and say, well, Kevin Sumlin's had more success early on than Jimbo Fisher did, you can at least say, well, he's trending in the right direction and next year's our year.
Yeah, well, to me, Kevin Sumlin was building an offense.
Yes.
Jimbo Fisher's building a program. The way that program, the trajectory of Texas A&M, after Manziel left and Mike Evans left and those guys were gone, guys that were responsible for a lot of those wins that you were just talking about, and one who won the Heisman, there wasn't the accountability within the program you needed to be able to actually compete with Alabama and Georgia now with Kirby and the SEC. And the SEC, in my opinion, it's always tough. New teams pop up, other teams go down. But when I look at A&M, I think it's coming. I think it's coming because the talent is going to be there. And eventually, when you do run a tight ship, in my opinion, the way Jimbo does, now I know they had trouble with Denver Harris and a couple of those other guys out there messing around in the car or whatever. The only way that you're going to have a chance to win an SEC West title and play in that SEC championship game and make the playoff is if your program is a machine of accountability, talent, development, and culture.
Yep.
And with Jimbo Fisher, there's a much better chance of you doing the things off the field that lead to good things on the field than with Kevin Sumlin.
Yep.
So again, you know, the women lie, men lie, numbers don't lie, and those numbers would worry me somewhat if I'm an Aggie fan. But as far as a 10-year plan, I feel like Jimbo Fisher puts the program in a better spot.
Yeah, I guess you could say that, but I mean, they're almost the Notre Dame in the SEC. It's every year. Every year is Texas A&M. And then trust me, I understand being somewhat delusional on a fan base. Like, you need to be somewhat delusional to make it to where you need to go. As being an Auburn fan, we're delusional as hell.
Yeah, how do you think anybody under 6'5" makes the NBA?
Exactly. So it's every year with A&M. This is a year we got the guys. What scares me the most about Jimbo Fisher is that he's a quarterback guru, and you watch Haynes King through spring, through fall, come in and start day one when he knew Max Johnson was better. He had to know. There's no way you can go through all that and not know Max Johnson's better. There's no way. There's no way, and it's not close, in my opinion. You want a guy, and yeah, I mean, let's think about it. Texas is a great defense, right? It's a defense you can lean on. You want a quarterback in there who has what? Experience. Max has experience. A guy who can do what? Play within the offense. You saw that against Miami. They win that game. Max Johnson plays against App State. I think they win that game. There's mistakes that you're not used to seeing from a guy who's supposed to be your savior, your quarterback whisperer. But it gets to the point where every time football season comes around, I'm waiting for Texas A&M to drop the ball. And they do it mostly every year.
Well, you know who that sounds like, who you're describing? Georgia, before they won the national championship last year. So, like, to me...
Georgia was losing the national
They were winning conference.
They were still, but again, you're chasing the natty here. And you poll 80% probably of Aggie fans, what do you want to win this year? The national championship. Mm-hmm. They're not going to say the SEC West. Now, obviously, that kind of comes into the fold. But when it comes to Haynes King, I think there's a couple things with Max Johnson. Max Johnson did come over. Haynes King gets hurt last year against Colorado early in the season. Did some good things, but you didn't really know. He didn't really have a chance to show it. You didn't 100% know. I looked at it. I didn't trust him just by the way he threw the ball. So you have that injury. He goes down. Max transfers over. New offense. Coach's kid. Former player's kid, quarterback's kid, and Brad Johnson. He can pick it up pretty quick. So I don't think it's I don't know what's going on, even though Jimbo does ask the quarterbacks to do a lot, and the terminology is different. Also, I think Haynes King can be one of those cats that in practice looks elite. Because he knows the game's not on the line.
I think you're right about
that. And you have a different colored jersey on. You know you're not getting hit. And you play the position. Mm-hmm. It's a lot different feeling when you're running around and scrambling around knowing that you got that different colored jersey on and they can't hit you. You may be willing to take some chances and stay in there that you wouldn't take.
They say it's different on State Street than on Main Street.
That's exactly right.
Where the stadium is in the practice field.
That's exactly right. I think Haynes King was a little bit of practice fool's gold. Oh, he runs good. Oh, he's got a big arm. But in the game, I mean, he was Jodie Foster. Where's the panic room? Every time in the pocket. I mean, he would pump fake and then throw to a wide open guy. Pump fake a wide open guy and then throw to the wide open guy and miss him. He just didn't look comfortable. Maybe it's too much on his plate. Maybe he got in the game. Some guys just freak out in the game. It just happens. Like boy from Friday Night Lights after Booby got hurt. When he goes in, first play, what does he do? Gets the ball, runs straight out of bounds. Like, son, you played running back. Like, go. This is a physical game. So I think a little bit with Haynes, it was a little bit of fool's gold. But Blaine, what's the Booster Club saying, thinking? And
we have a comment here from Rex. Don't want to say his last name. He says, I think the point is that with the money that they're pouring into the program, talking about Texas A&M, and that they're paying Jimbo, they shouldn't have transitional years like you see in a sub-top tier program.
Well, wait.
Fair enough.
It's hard to argue that, okay? I'm paying you this amount of money. I need you to go ball. I get it. That's how it works. I do think, though, in college football, like through a 5-year span, let's say they do get it rolling, you do start seeing the rings coming in, the Frodo Baggins treatment, you can have a year of 8, 9 wins in between that. It just happens sometimes with injuries. Maybe the schedule doesn't line up good. You just need to get over that hump. That's what you need. Texas A&M hadn't won the West. Missouri, they played in the SEC championship.
Let me say
South Carolina, they've done it. Arkansas, they've done it.
To Texas A&M fans, because when Jim Harbaugh got hired at Michigan, that was our guy. That was our guy. Not only did he play there, but he played for Bo Schembechler. He played quarterback, and it was like, what a great hire that is. And he struggled early, struggled year after year. Couldn't win the conference, couldn't win the division, didn't make the playoffs. And I would get asked every single day by friends, former players, fans, like, what do you think about Jim Harbaugh? Is it time to move on? And there did come a time where I said, yeah, I think it might be time to move on. It's Michigan. It's Michigan, and that's how Texas A&M fans feel. And I love that they're so proud of their university that every season they think, yeah, we're back. It's our year. So then maybe it's time to move on. And now it seems like Jim Harbaugh does have things going in the right direction. Very similar to Jimbo Fisher in that he's a quarterback developer. That's what was so frustrating. We're not developing quarterbacks. So if you're a Texas A&M fan, you're thinking, well, where's our Jameis Winston, right? Where is that for us? So I will say now that I see my alma mater headed in the right direction, winning some of the bigger games. I mean, look, I know it's only 1 year last year, but things are starting off well this year, and at least we're playing competent at the quarterback position. Mm-hmm. I will say, moving on from a guy too soon before he's able to establish the foundation he needs, especially when he is having success in recruiting, that could be detrimental moving forward.
But it's 5 years, though. I mean, we're on year 5.
Jim Harbaugh didn't beat Ohio for 6 years, and maybe even still it won't work out for him. That's what I'm saying. But I am saying that last year he did get over several of those big humps and was able to make the college football playoff. And when we're talking about Texas A&M, they want to win the national championship. I know that, but right now they would certainly be taking winning the division.
Oh, for sure.
Winning the conference. Or, even last year, beating Alabama, you saw what that did for that fan base, And
that program in recruiting.
They can replicate that.
I mean, you had one win and it just flamed the whole offseason. Maybe if Jimbo Fisher and Jim Harbaugh doesn't work out, they could combine to make it like one coach, Jimbo Harfisher. What do you think about that?
I don't want him on my team, but,
It's like man, bear, pig. Hey, if you like what you heard and you want to hear more, go on over to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher. Check out Crane & Company live every day from 2 to 3 Central, where you can hear us spit it straight.